Roll call, please.
Legislator Hathaway.
I'm here.
Legislator Burkler. Here. Legislator Burns has been excused. Legislator Gilbert.
Here.
Legislator Chartrand.
Here.
Legislator Moorhan. Here. Legislator Leviker.
Here.
Legislator Osborne.
Here.
Legislator Mellenbach.
Here.
And Legislator Zalhoff.
Here. Please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Ian, would you lead us in the invocation, please?
Yes. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you today for the privilege to gather peacefully and in freedom to exercise our duties as elected officials. We lift up in prayer our county employees and ask a special blessing be bestowed on them for their faithful service to the community. Thank you, Lord, for your love and boundless grace. Please give us the wisdom and clarity of purpose we need to advance the common good as public officials and through our day-to-day interactions with our neighbors. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The April 5th board meeting minutes have been distributed. If there are no amendments or corrections, they stand approved. Report of the Finance and Rules Committee for Rule 6. Cassandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee has met and they recommend to waive rules to act upon late resolutions.
I need a motion to accept the report. Lisa, second by Jeff. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Public hearing and privilege of the floor. We have a couple people here that would like to speak. First on the list is Timothy Newton. If you would come forward and address the board, please. State your name and the record.
How you doing? My name is Tim Newton. And tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the landowners and the farmers that have land that border the railroad tracks from the village all the way to Jefferson County. Approximately 95% of those. The only conversation I've had with anyone is with you, Mr. Pichet, which wasn't too long ago. And there's talk, whatever, about a trail going up through there. And I can tell you that the landowners are not in favor of that for many reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is the liability that could come with people going off the trail. And I think we see a lot of that with when we have the snort run and some of the damage that's done up on Tug Hill and Martinsburg. People just don't care, right? No one seems to be able to answer the question of who would be liable if they went off those trails and went out to private land. Of course, it would be the private landowner, which nobody wants to deal with. Right now, it's a swamp for most of the way. Most of the year, it's flooded in the spring. It's not really a good place. I actually mentioned to Mr. Pichet when we talked, there is land that the county has, and I think their trail system would be nice, but it would be probably easier maintained if it wasn't a mosquito-infested swamp and on land that the county already has. Right? I think that the survey that started, it was 550 people out of 26,573. Is that what it was here recently in 2021, the last one taken? I don't think 550 people accurately assess what Lewis County wants, and none of the landowners that I spoke to were actually interviewed for this, right? I mean, there's a lot of interviews and a lot of surveys that go out there, and it might reach some, but when you got 26,000 people, I'm not sure that 550 can make a choice for those. It's hard enough when some of the choices have to be made by this board or the county without knowing how everybody's going to feel what the flashback is going to be. I would say that there's a huge concern, not just with liability, but we already deal with many trespassers. I've been on that land since 2004, actually before that, but with Herb Yancey, 2004. And he owns from just past Earl and Myron Knowles all the way up through to Steve Nortz, and there's quite a stretch in there. And we deal with people every year. And my fear as an avid hunter and down there year in, year out, bringing youth down in there for turkey hunts, disabled veterans have been down in there to hunt, is that we would deal with even more, because once people have an inlet, they take advantage of those things. People don't respect people, right? I mean, we see that with the snort run. So, I mean, I'm not going to linger on, but I just want to say that interviewing and talking to all the landowners up through there, you know what, we're in favor of doing something good for Lewis County. We really support that. Most of them just don't want it in between in their backyard or going in the middle of their land. Liability, trespassers, and people that just disrespect the land. And we know that you guys listen when people come up here and talk, and we appreciate that, appreciate the time. But I'm not going to linger on. That's what we have to say about that. So I appreciate the time to come up and speak with you guys tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Newton. Brian Reed.
Hello, my name is Brian Reed. Bill knows who I am. I've been here before.
You've been through the wars.
The rest of you don't know me. I'm a dairy farmer on pasture land. We've been through this issue before, what we do. But I want to speak about economic impact of agriculture in Lewis County. I was in the Tri-County region. Agriculture surpassed Fort Drum with $1.7 billion of economic revenue in the last survey that was given in 2019. In Lewis County, we have an economic impact of about $230 million, and with a multiplier effect of 1.7, that would take you up to about $400 million in a year. Just these few farms that adjoin this railroad track that you want to seem to, we hear lots of rumors. Can we get an answer on what you're going to do with it? Because just these few farms that adjoin those lands, or whatever you want to call them, $11.7 million from 7 or 8 small family businesses that employ 74 people, 74 local people, that their livelihood comes from that. As Tim mentioned, if people don't respect the land or respect the landowner, almost weekly I have people that go past my posted signs that I have to ask to leave. But you would be putting a trail through the middle of our lands that would be hard for us to monitor, or it would cause a hardship for us to be able to do business as we're doing business now. I pasture cows on both sides of this railroad. I have my family's been there for 75 years. I plan on being there a while longer. All these family businesses, before you said agriculture is a dying business in Lewis County, but as we can see by the numbers, it's not. All these family businesses have thrived, and they're fortunate to have the next generation. In this last 10 years we've been working at this, take over their farms or are in the process of taking over their farms. There's only been one farm that's gone out of business in this stretch of land. They all just want to be left alone to try to make a living. The margins that you make farming, those are huge numbers. You're working on a margin of pennies on a dollar. It's not huge money that's profited from this. Every nickel goes back into this county for every one of these businesses, all of them. So why do you feel that it's important to cause a hardship for that? In pasturing animals, people don't seem to understand that the cows spook, take off, run, whatever. When I used to pasture animals next to the road and I'd have people walk or ride their four-wheelers, they would run. And I had an incident where a young mother with a baby in her baby stroller, and they took off and chased her 2 miles down the road. Now you're gonna put a trail. I've moved my pasture so they would not have that situation happen again. Now you wanna put a trail supposedly through the middle of my pasture where I'm trying to avoid people. There's no way. With the price of fuel at $6 a gallon right now, the cheapest and most economical way for me to harvest that crop is to let the cows eat it themselves. And also the health benefits of the cows being out there. There's no way I can absorb, or we can absorb, any losses from what you're trying to do with us. We just can't. We're just not gonna put up with it. It's just not gonna happen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Is there anyone else that would like privilege of the floor to discuss anything? If not, we'll move on to presentations of petitions, communications, and notices. Sandra, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislators received a letter from Mr. Rick Babcock regarding his frustration with National Grid not upgrading their substations. The resolution was received from Cattaraugus County supporting establishment of extended producer responsibility system for packaging and printed paper. Delaware County sent 2 resolutions. The first was titled Resolution in Opposition to the Climate Action Council's Draft Scoping Plan. The second was Resolution to submit comments on New York State Climate Council's Draft Scoping Plan for New York's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Reports of county officers and departments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Legislators received the monthly treasurer's report, monthly highway and solid waste audit reports, and the following apportionment of mortgage tax report totaling $389,070.21 for the period of October 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, along with the warrant. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to reports of standing committees. Tom, would you start us off with finance and rules, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing to report at this time.
Any questions for Tom? If not, we'll move on to Ian with general services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 2 motions tonight. The first motion is to authorize Buildings and Grounds Supervisor Matt O'Connor to send out an RFP for 911 Tower Driveway Snowplowing Services. I'll make that motion.
Moved by Ian, second by Lisa. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
The second is a motion to authorize Buildings and Grounds Supervisor Matt O'Connor to send out an RFP for JCC Snowplowing Services. I'll make that motion too.
Moved by Ian, second by Josh. Discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
That concludes my report.
Any questions for Ian? If not, we'll move on to Lisa with Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have anything tonight.
Any questions for Lisa? If not, we'll move on to Dick, our representative on the hospital board.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got enough to take up all their time today.
Easy, we don't want to start naming you Ryan.
Yeah. Pass this thing out to you folks because otherwise I'd have to read it. This thing would take another hour or so. Please read it. It talks about the COVID in New York State, upstate New York. And right now, I've been watching it for the month of March and April. March was double-digit numbers. April started coming down. We had days that were 0, and we had days that were 1, 2. Now they're double-digit, and they just keep rising daily.
What do you mean by double digit?
10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
The new cases, is that what you're saying?
So this kind of explains it, and then the other thing it shows is the confusion in everything, because there's no one size fits all. But I think you're gonna see something probably from the public health department asking, at least if you would, to go back and do some of the precautions that we've had. I've had on my street alone 4 people in the last 2 weeks that, you know, I don't know why, but it just seems to be taken off. It was on the news last night as well, and that's what this talks about. Just people acting, Lisa, you're in the healthcare business, am I wrong?
No, it's probably a little bit related to Easter holidays and spring breaks, and so it was to be expected, but still concerning. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Next, board meeting, we congratulated Rebecca Kiefer, RN, Clinical Information Coordinator, as the March Employee of the Month. And then that led to, we have an Employee of the Year, and that was last week. I represented this board as well as the board of managers at that, thanking all of the workers that were at it, and I would say they had 50 or 60 in that room at the time. They honor one of the 12 each year. And I expressed our appreciation for all of those nurses, practitioners, and the people that work at the hospital for us, which I feel is a great job, and I know everybody here does. So we covered that. And Elsie Herzig, Clinical Laboratory Technologist, was named 2021 Employee of the Year. She was nominated by staff to receive this recognition for consistently going above and beyond the call of duty. Special thanks to Elsie and all the health system employees who make a difference in our lives. If you see Elsie, congratulate her on her well-deserved recognition. The other piece that came out of that presentation, and I don't want to misquote this, but I think Elsie's got almost 50 years of service up there. She had 30-some and retired. And about a month or two, she got a call, could you come back for a day or two? Yeah, I guess so. So she came back. She worked another 20-some years. I know her personally, and she's a wonderful person, so if you do know her or see her, congratulate her on that. Great honor.
Elsie is my neighbor, and I think she's retired again, but still working.
She has now, but
I
she's
think
still working.
again, but I think she's
Casual.
still, working quite a bit, so
Yeah.
yeah, this is her second go around, but she is amazing.
Yeah. Got a great record. Okay, then we had a presentation by the Hospital Foundation, which I found quite interesting, so I'm going to share a few of the highlights with you if I can. They have a capital campaign, and their goal is to raise $1 million by the end of 2022. That's this year. But currently, they've got $400,000 already towards that goal, so they're about 40% towards it, so they're coming along. But you're going to see more developments. They're going to have their gala 12th of November at the Elks Lodge again. That makes quite a bit of money. Then they've worked on different things like award of $1 million for a recovery grant from the USDA World Development. We were the only hospital in New York State to receive that award. I thought that was great. Then they're working for appropriation requests for $4.5 million. We submitted that to Senator Gillibrand, Congresswoman Stefanik, and Senator Schumer. And that's for new operating equipment and operating the procedure rooms in the new construction that's going on in the building that we have. They're assisting our county planning department with a $730,000 FEMA grant to replace an antiquated generator up there. And it looks good. We've got a better 50-50 chance of getting some of that money. They're going to have a golf tournament, which makes some money on Friday, June 10th. There's still openings. If you call Joanne Rubart at the hospital, just call 5200 with switchboard, ask for Joanne, they'll get you to her. So if you wanted to do the golf tournament, that'd be great. They're going to do a pumpkin run Saturday, October 22nd at the fairgrounds. I think that's probably like a turkey trot thing, same type of issue to raise money. And of course, the gala is on the 12th. Mr. Hellinger, our finance guy, reported that there was a gain of $1,647,949 versus a budgeted gain of $648,227 for the month of March. Our year-to-date gain is $102,989 versus a budgeted gain of $86,833. The $32 million bond financing's been received, turned over to the hospital, who has got it with RBC for investments so that we can make some money on it while we're waiting
for the work we do.
That concludes my report.
You okay?
Any questions for Dick? Thank you, Dick.
I don't think I need to go that.
No, you're good. Jim. Okay, moving on to the report of our project manager, Jim and Nick Lito are here.
Okay, I'd like to thank the board and Ryan for the opportunity to report on your project. One of the good things that's occurring, the contractors are aggressively procuring materials, which is important. We don't know what the future brings as far as getting stuff, so the contractors are actively getting materials, storing in warehouses. That's always a good sign. The project's on schedule, it's early on, but we like to monitor the schedule from day one. This helps us understand where we're at and where we're headed. Submittal process is moving along as we'd like to see at this stage of the game. The contractors are pushing the submittals in to the design team for their review. And again, we produced a monthly report. If anyone would like us to go over any topics on the monthly report or what the charts are describing, we're available anytime to meet, whether it's at the job site or at night or wherever. We're committed to helping everyone understand what we're putting together. As far as the work on site, I'll let Nick report to that.
Yes, Betty Kring has been on site most of the month. They've stripped and stockpiled basically all of the site down at the East Road campus. Today they started digging for the foundations, and footers are beginning tomorrow, hopefully pouring concrete Friday or Monday next week. The entire site is now fenced off, separating the construction area from the fuel island. And so far, all of the material that they've cut down and dug up has looked exceptionally well. And we've actually had an ATL on site to test it so that we could reuse that same material instead of having to bring it. So that's all I've got so far.
Have you gotten any results from ATL yet?
No, they said 3 to 5 days ahead of there Thursday, so I'm hoping to hear something back tomorrow.
Have you had any invoices from the contractors?
Yes.
It's in their monthly report, it details what each contractor been paid, and what months they submitted, and what they got paid that month.
This month, we received invoices from
E&I Mechanical and Two Mechanical.
PMAC, Upper Northeast and PMAC. All right, any other questions? Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dennis. For the county manager, Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honestly, the last, month, we've been working very closely with Jim and Nick on the project. It's kept us very busy. Broadband is moving forward. You'll notice that the 3 resolutions in your packet this evening have been filled out with vendors and amounts. Those projects are very exciting. And, the vendor that we chose, I'm very confident is going to be able to execute those programs on quite a tight timeline that the state has set for that CDBG funding. So we've been talking a lot about broadband, and now it's going to happen, which I think is great. The team at the Development Authority of the North Country has been phenomenal to work with. I think it's worth pointing out that other regions of the state don't have this level of assistance that we have through the Development Authority. They'd have to go in the open market or hopefully find an engineer that has a level of capability in this arena. We're very lucky to have the Development Authority in the North Country to help us. So they've been wonderful, and Cassie and her office have been truly wonderful in the planning department. pulling that together. So good things happening with broadband, and we are ready to bring our broadband ad hoc committee back together. So those of you that are involved with that, you'll see, you should have been contacted by Cassandra. We've got another ad hoc broadband meeting coming together. The ad hoc EMS committee will have their first meeting coming up as well. So we've got some good information for that. We have at 5:30 this evening, and the new polling will be released by Jefferson Community College Center for Community Studies. Those of you that were popping kind of in and around the office earlier today, you've seen I've shared some of that data with you, but a lot of relevant information regarding the stuff that we're working on right now. So we ask questions about EMS, we ask questions about broadband, we ask questions about rails to trails, and a lot of great data. And one thing I will say is that they may have surveyed 500 people, but that doesn't mean that that's the results of the survey are just based on those 500 people. JCC uses a formula to extrapolate the full community polling based on those people. So they compare, their results to annual state and local elections to come up with a formula that is representative of the full community. So when we say that a certain topic has 80% support, it's not that 80% out of 400 people said they like it. It's that's been put into the formula, adjusted for demographics, and we're fairly confident that that is a representative sample of the community. So that's it for me today, unless you have any questions.
For the broadband, is it just CDBG or is it also ARPA?
Right now, we have 3 projects going on. 2 are CDBG, one of which is in the town of Diana, one of which is in the town of Lionsdale. So there's 2 CDBG. The 3rd project is at Northern Border Regional Commission, an RBC. That is in the town of Denmark. Additionally, we had applied for NTIA, National Transportation Infrastructure Grant, Transformational Infrastructure Grant, and we were not awarded that, but that's not bad news because now we know that we're going to have to fill in that funding ourselves. So that's where we're going to plug in the ARPA money, is where we weren't awarded the NTIA grant. Also, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in the ad hoc broadband committee, but the costs per installation on some of the wireless equipment came in higher than what we were hoping. So we might be able to use some of the ARPA money to subsidize hooking up more homes to the wireless. So for example, the NRBC, I think we put in our application, we're going to cover 400 homes to be hooked up with that funding. If, say, 800 homes want to be hooked up, we could use some of the ARPA funds to help subsidize those folks, because the hookup costs at the home were a little more expensive than we had hoped. But it's for really high quality technology. So good question.
Any other questions for Ryan? If not, we'll move on to the treasurer report. Eric, please.
Thank you. I would have a limited report this evening also. Really the last month has been very busy, meeting reporting deadlines for the state primarily. So nothing significant to add to what I provided to you in writing. Would make a couple of other comments regarding the broadband, and to, I guess, add a little bit from what Ryan said. I've been on the DANK board for almost a year now. Thank you again for appointing me. I've enjoyed it so far. At the DANK board meetings, they regularly talk about their IT staff and the support they're providing to the counties, and they always reference that Lewis County is very active in using their assistance. St. Lawrence and Jefferson County are getting there, but they point to us as being very active in our work in broadband. So I think that's a great thing for us. I think to mention also on the JCC Community Center study, I've been on that advisory board for about 15 years, so I would completely echo what Ryan said. The staff at JCC that are doing these surveys know what they're doing. When you see in the national news about Zogby polls and NBC News polls, and the JCC team is doing the exact same thing. Their surveys are statistically accurate, and you can trust their information. The stuff that's gonna be released today is very interesting. And I think we can use it to make good decisions. It really gives you a good feeling for what citizens of Lewis County are thinking about. It's just some commentary. Any questions on the written report?
Could you address that dramatic decrease in the health fund, health insurance fund?
Dramatic. It has been coming down, Phil, for a couple of years.
Well, last month it was 5,000,001 and this month it's 3,000,007.
We did the holiday.
We did the holiday.
Yes, yep, holiday was in the month of March, so we've, again, not injected funds injected employees and county funds into the health insurance plan.
So that is the
That's
primary
yeah, I think that's about,
driver of that decrease?
I think it's $1.1 million per month.
Okay, that makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, good, just kind of
Yep,
dramatic.
yep, good question. Yep, thank you, good question.
Did you say good question?
You know, your questions are always relatively good.
No one on this question, that's fine.
Okay, any other questions for Eric? If not, we'll move on to the report of the Finance Rules Committee for Rule 7, please. Cassandra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance and Rules Committee reports that they have examined the claims presented for payment in the total amount of $2,172,649.90 and recommend that they be audited and allowed for the amounts claimed.
I have a motion for that. Bill, please. Do I have a second? Andrea, any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay, resolutions. What resolutions do we need to pull out of the slate?
Mr. Chairman, we need to pull 83, 97, 112, and then both of the late resolutions, 114 and 115.
And I need to pull 89.
Does anyone have any others they'd like to vote on individually? Yeah. Okay, a motion to approve the rest of the remaining as a slate, please. Ian, second by Lisa. Discussion. Any questions, Josh, or anything? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Slate carries. Moving back to 83.
Auditing and allowing claims in the total amount of $2,172,649.90.
Moved by Lisa, second by Andrea. Discussion. And this is roll call.
Legislator Osborne.
Yes.
Legislator Hathaway.
Yes.
Legislator Mellenbach.
Yes.
Legislator Burkler.
Yes.
Legislator Levenher.
Yes.
Legislator Burns is excused. Legislator Moorhan.
Yes.
Legislator Gilbert.
Yes.
Legislator Chartrand.
Yes.
And Legislator Zalhoff.
Yes. And that carries. Moving to resolution 89.
Resolution authorizing vacant property revitalization program and transfer of funds.
Do I have a motion? Lisa, second by Tom. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, the funds in this case are not going to the IDA, they're going to the LCDC. The staff of the IDA is going to execute the program, but it'll be run through the LCDC. So there's 5 references to the IDA. Joan, you and I haven't had a chance to talk about this, but my recommendation would be that we just make a motion to change the references to the IDA to LCDC. But what do you think, Joan?
So the LCDC is administering it, or is the IDA administering
No, the LCDC is administering it. The IDA staff is administering it on behalf of the LCDC. But the money's going to LCDC.
LCDC is the applicant and the IDA is the administrator.
it? So the IDA is the administrator.
Right,
So the
Brett?
LCDC contracts with the IDA for staff services, but the funds should go directly to the LCDC. That is a more appropriate entity to be administering the grant fund rather than the IDA.
If it's all to the LCDC, that's fine. So,
The LCDC board will be ultimately making the decisions.
and administering the plan.
Yep.
Okay. So it should be all the LCDC.
So we need a motion to change all the references to the IDA to the LCDC.
Yes.
Okay. Lisa moves it. Do I have a second? Josh, any discussion? All in favor of the amendments? Anyone opposed? Amendment carries. Back to the amended resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Mr. Chairman, please show me abstaining due to a conflict.
Show Ian abstaining and the amended resolution carries. Number 97.
Bond resolution authorizing the issuance of up to 600,000 aggregate principal amount serial bonds of the County of Lewis, State of New York pursuant to the local finance law to finance the costs of the acquisition of machinery and apparatus for construction and maintenance for the County Highway Department.
Moved by Lisa, second by Dick. Discussion. And it looks like this is a roll call also.
Legislator Burns has been excused. Legislator Chartran.
Yes.
Legislator Gilbert.
Yes.
Legislator Hathaway.
Yes.
Legislator Leviker.
Yes.
Legislator Moorhan.
Yes.
Legislator Nellenbach.
Yes.
Legislator Osborne.
Yes.
Legislator Verkler.
Yes.
And Legislator Zalhoff.
Yes. Let's see if we can get through 112.
Resolution authorizing one-time final distribution to certain villages to assist in water/sewer infrastructure expenses and improvement costs.
Moved by Dick, second by Lisa. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I could explain this a little bit. Last year, the end of last year, the board amended its policy on this and eliminated taxing these jurisdictions that have water infrastructure. But because of the timing of when it passed, it didn't cover this current year. And so it was requested that we make this final one-time payment to those districts.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, show me abstaining due to conflict.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Show Josh Lupker abstaining and the resolution carries. 114.
Resolution awarding bid and authorizing agreement between the County of Lewis and AMP Electric RS LLC for electric and data renovations of the Glenfield School property.
Moved by Tom, second by Josh. Discussion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And number 150.
Resolution to set second public hearing for Lewis County Manufactured Housing Replacement Program under New York State CDBG Project 636 MH 353-19.
Moved by Bill, second by Dick. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That carries. So, other business, we have 4 proclamations. Cassandra, if you would like to read those for us, please.
I sure would. The first one is Proclamation commemorating May as Mental Health Month. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental illness, and whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being, and whereas mental illnesses are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with early and effective treatment, those individuals with mental illnesses can recover and lead full, productive lives, and whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental illnesses and has a responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence L. Dahlhoff, Chairman of the Lewis County Board of Legislators, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as Mental Health Month in Lewis County. I also call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Lewis County to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental illnesses at all stages, and especially before stage 4. The next proclamation is commemorating May as National Foster Care Month. Whereas family is the foundation of a strong and healthy community, and whereas if a child cannot remain safely in their home, placement with relatives and kin, both formally through the child welfare system and informally through family arrangements, can increase stability, reduce trauma, and help children maintain a sense of family, belonging, and identity. And whereas the importance of the family structure is best served in foster homes that model family living as opposed to group care. Foster parents, both relative and non-related, extended family members provide an essential service to the community in caring for children and youth in foster care. And whereas in Lewis County, there are currently 18 children in foster care, and 16 families are certified to provide caring, safe, and nurturing homes for children and youth in foster care. And whereas during National Foster Care Month, we celebrate all those who have invited a child in need into their hearts and homes and express our profound appreciation for all those who make foster care possible. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence L. Dahlhoff, Chairman of the Lewis County Board of Legislators, do hereby proclaim May 2022 as National Foster Care Month in Lewis County, New York, and urge all residents to volunteer their time and talents on behalf of children and professional staff who work with these children and youth. The next one is a proclamation in honor of National Hospital Week. Whereas National Hospital Week celebrates hospital and the healthcare providers who day in and day out support the health of our communities through compassionate care, constant innovation, and unmatched dedication. And whereas individuals across the United States will be celebrating this time-honored event. And whereas the County of Lewis is honored to join the many National Hospital Week partners in celebrating Lewis County health system and the men and women who are on the front lines working tirelessly to help others in their greatest time of need, especially during this period when our county and country are recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the County of Lewis recognizes that the hardworking people who make up Lewis County health system deserve universal regard and appreciation for keeping our community healthy. Now, therefore, I, Lawrence L. Dahlhoff, Chairman of the Lewis County Board of Legislators, do hereby declare May 8th through the 14th, 2022, as Hospital Week in Lewis County, New York, and urge residents to express their appreciation for the people, facilities, and technologies that make trustworthy, reliable healthcare possible in our community. The last proclamation is in honor of National Skilled Nursing Care Week. Whereas we honor and respect our elders and citizens of any age with physical or intellectual disabilities who reside in skilled nursing care centers in Lewis County. And whereas skilled nursing care centers, their staff, volunteers, residents, and their families will be celebrating this special week. And whereas in Lewis County, we recognize the dedicated, competent, and caring healthcare professional that are employed at Lewis County Residential Healthcare Facility and appreciate their important work and service to our community. Now therefore, I, Lawrence L. Dahlhoff, Chairman of the Lewis County Board of Legislators, do hereby declare May 8th through the 14th, 2022 as Skilled Nursing Care Week in Lewis County, New York.
Thank you, Cassandra. Next on the list, Legislator Hathaway has a topic that he would like to bring up.
First off, I'd like to say you look great proclamations there, Larry.
It's been a long month.
I know Cassandra did it, not you.
She does a great job at it.
Yes, you do, for sure. You know, 3 men in a room usually has a negative connotation to it. But I got a positive one. In this case, the 3 men are local business people, Herb Frost and Chuck Fowler, and Zach Smith, the Diana Town Supervisor. They sat down and talked it out and created an event that will serve to help keep our area looking good, but also contribute to community spirit. They call it Diana Day. And it was initially posted on Facebook, and I'll read you the post. We are looking for community members to volunteer and join us for a fun-filled day of picking up our roadsides. We are organizing this event in hopes of bringing people together for the greater good of our beloved community. There will be sign-up sheets at various locations to be announced. Almost immediately, there was like 70 likes and goings and all those things on Facebook. And the people didn't even know the details. The effort also has the full support of the Town of Diana Board, both emotionally and financially. They're gonna furnish the best, the bags, the gloves, the dumpster, all that at their expense. And actually, again, immediately from the Facebook post, some community members have already pledged donations of water and other types of support to be distributed as it goes. So I'd say those 3 men in the room did pretty darn good. And I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Do we need an executive session?
Not that I'm aware of.
Motion to adjourn. Dick, second by Lisa. We're adjourned.
What's the date?